Okay, so thanks again, guys, for coming. So, show of hands, how many already know how to solve Rubik's Cube?
I did it last week, now I'm probably
So, how many are sort of, you guys want to learn how to solve it? It says are in the cube. Okay, so basically, the sort of ethic that revolves around cubing, I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible because I know the Rubik's Cube Club, Mr. Hobson has done very, very well with providing you guys with tips and tricks. But basically where I started about 4.5 years ago was I went to my Rubik's Cube Club and I picked up a little booklet on, it was from You Can Do the Cube, and I actually made a couple sheets for you guys. Yes. I'm gonna go ahead and pass those out. And this is, I mean, yes, it is long, but it's going to summarize everything that I see today. And using online tools, using the resources that exist out there, you can solve a cube in less than 15 seconds consistently. It just takes time.
15 seconds.
Wow.
15 seconds. So,
Well, 2 minutes to go on this.
so how I started was I looked through a guide, and how many of you know which guide I'm talking about? You Can Do the Rubik's Cube. You guys know about it, you've seen it. So it basically explains in depth with pictures how you manipulate the Rubik's Cube and solve it layer by layer. And using that guide, you can just solve it quicker and quicker. And once you can solve it without the guide, then you can start improving your speed. And I was able to solve it without the guide in about 2 minutes when I first started. And so over time, what I did was I looked online, I talked to people, I went to competitions, and I talked to people who were faster than I was, and I said, hey, how did you get to where you are today? And that was mainly what I did, was I learned and I listened. And so, am I going too fast for anybody? Does anybody have any questions right now? Yeah. So basically a little bit about the guide that I printed up for you all. It's, once you learn from that booklet, you'll basically learn to solve the cube layer by layer. So you start with a mixed cube and you make your cross on the bottom. And this cross is your guide for solving the Rubik's Cube no matter how you start. This is what you're going to start with all the time. And then what speedcubers do is they build the first 2 layers at the same time. And so they basically pair up these sets of pairs, the edge and the corner, so that they make this sort of pair right here. Can you guys all see that? And this pair will go in its respective slot to make blocks. And these blocks can be made so that you can make the first 2 layers at the same time. So we have these, which I can make another block. So now I have 2 diagonal blocks. And then another pair right here, make that block. And another pair in the back. And now you can see that all of this is solved. And what a lot of people don't really understand is that solving the Rubik's Cube isn't solving one side and then solving another side and then solving each side individually to solve all 6. I mean, that wouldn't make sense because you can't solve 5 sides, because if you solve 5, then 6 won't be solved. So now what we would do is we focus on the last layer. And so what I do here is I make the last side. So right now I have all of this solved and the top side solved. So now all I have is the last layer, which I learned a sequence of moves which will sort of do that. And that might have been a little quick for everybody.
Could you do one fast for us? This guy,
Sorry, I have
this
to
truck
go,
has to go, but
But
Sure.
I want to see. I'm a math teacher, so.
So I'll go ahead and solve it.
you visit.
That is so cool.
That is awesome.
So
Thank you.
a little more in depth, and the method that you will learn is layer by layer. And again, I might make it look a little easier than it actually is. Believe me, it took a very, very long time to get here, because I was a sophomore in high school, so I was in 10th grade, and that was when I first picked up a Rubik's Cube. And when I did that, I looked through the guide, and I eventually learned how to solve it. It took about a month or 2. And then I joined the Cube Club, I learned new things, and I was practicing all the time. I mean, whenever I had a cube, I was practicing. And I do encourage that because that is your best tool. There's only so much you can really learn about the cube, but practicing is what's going to make you as fast as you can be. And so this took a few months, and eventually I went to a competition in January of that year. So about 6 months after I started cubing, I went to a competition and I competed, and I solved it in about 30 seconds at this point. And I had learned from other people that when they teach you the first 2 layers, that's what you can sort of build off of. And so once you make your cross on the bottom, you'll start building in these little blocks. But what people do during the beginner's method is they'll build in these corners first. So now you have this corner inserted, but your edge is up here. This is exactly what the book will teach you. And when you get faster, you'll learn to do these simultaneously at the same time. And this basically saves you a lot of time. And again, there's not too much I can teach you from just verbally, but what I can tell you is perfect practice does make perfect. The more you practice, the better you will get, and online resources are out there. But a little bit of a backstory, there was a time that I was getting faster, and the cube really was my sort of claim to fame, I guess. I really enjoyed doing this. It was something that it was like a rite of passage for me. It gave me a lot of purpose. I really enjoyed doing it. The people that I ended up meeting were very, very supportive, but there were people who weren't that supportive. And that was what really held me back at certain points, where there was people who said, oh, you can solve it pretty fast, and then they would ask, oh, who's the fastest in the world? And I would be like, okay, well, this guy in Australia can solve it in about 5 seconds. And at the time, I was like a minute, so. And they were like, well, why aren't you that fast? Or, you'll never be that fast. I mean, people actually told me that, I'm not kidding. And so at that point, there were so many times in my high school career that I just didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, this is not what people, this is not what people like me for. I don't want people to remember me as this kid. But, I decided that it didn't matter what people thought. I had a solid group of friends, and I had people who supported me. My parents supported me, and my friends supported me. So what I want to tell you, and sort of the takeaway with wanting to practice more as you get faster, is don't let anybody define your limits because of where you come from. Your only limit is what you can do with the cube. When people say no, you'll never be able to do that, we'll prove them wrong. I can see anyone in here has the potential to be the next Felix Zemdegs. Felix Zemdegs is an Australian cuber who just had the world record in 2011 for solving the cube in 5.66 seconds, and just took it back about a month ago at 4.73. Wow. And he's been practicing for almost 9 years. And he is an insanely fast cuber, but he's also an insanely nice guy. I've met him. He's a really great guy. And again, it didn't get that way overnight. It took him several years. And there were people, I have talked to him, there were people who said, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, it's just a waste of time, it's just a little puzzle. And he said, no, I'm gonna just keep doing it. And that's how he got to where he was today. So, that's pretty much my sort of spiel with the whole thing. So basically just keep practicing, and you will get there, believe me. It just takes time and persistence. So I'm gonna shut up for a little bit. Can I have someone scramble this cube for me? Anybody? Go ahead and pass this around, and I'll pass another one around until this is scrambled as well. And I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna solve these 3 cubes for you guys, as well as the 3x3, and we'll get this going. While they're mixing that up, does anybody have any questions for me? Anything at all. Doesn't even have to be about cubing.
How did you feel when you just set your record?
Which one?
The 7 seconds.
The 7 one, that was really great for me because that was my first solve. I believe at the time it was actually my first solve under 9 seconds. So at the time I had like a 9.05, and then my next fastest solve was a 7.17. So it was definitely a jump, and it was just really liberating for me. And it happened to be the fastest solve at that competition, and it was such a great feeling. Yep.
How do you get your solves recorded?
Sorry?
How do you get your solves recorded in the banking?
Basically when you go to a competition and you give the scrambler your cube, and they give you a computer generated scramble, and then you solve that cube using a stack mat timer, and once you finish solving, you get a time, and it's recorded by a judge. And once that judge records it, then your times are recorded and you're placed accordingly, and you can make it to the next round. and every average and every solve is recorded onto a database called the World Cube Association, and that has, at this moment, I believe 60,000 people. So the cubing community has really grown. It is really great. I'm really happy to hear that. And I really, really like people who, join the cubing community and say, okay, I want to do this too. And that's what I want people to know is you can do this too. All your resources are out there. We can just practice. So, anybody have any other questions before I get going?
How proud were your parents when you had this
They were really proud of me. My mom sent it to my whole family, and everyone was just like, "Wow, we're so proud of Tanzer," because at the time when I did get the 7, it was, I believe, like 11th in the United States, but ranks have changed. And then a couple months later, actually not a couple months later, but a year later, that I got my 6.21 second solve. Unfortunately, it wasn't on camera because it was during the final round. I was really nervous. And at the time, that was 21st in the world, and I believe it's 6th in the United States. But since then, I think my ranks have dropped. I don't know what I am right now, maybe 44th in the world. So.
Because one thing you might not know, he doesn't spend all his time cubing anymore. He's in college.
So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have as much time as I used to. But I still really enjoy. What I want to say is, I still really, really enjoy doing it. It's something that I can just pick up, just do a couple solves, just to get my mind off of work or stress or anything at all. Yep.
I saw that you had a 2x2 cube and a 4x4 and a 5x5. Could you possibly solve those?
Yep, I'm gonna do, basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do 2 to 5. I'm gonna time it and we'll see how fast it goes. Yes.
How old are you?
I am 19.
Wow, not even 20 yet. And how many cubes do you own? Doesn't matter what configuration.
Probably 20. But there are people who own a lot more than I do. So, okay, so I'm gonna do all these 4 cubes, and we're gonna see how long it goes. So, just take a look at them. And what speedcubers will do is, before the solve, they're given 15 seconds to inspect the cube. And what's interesting is that the cubing community has gotten so sophisticated that they use all their inspection, especially with the 2x2. Am I good on time? Yep. And so that's what I do now, and that's really important about the solve. The inspection is just as important as the solve. Okay.
Notice he's inspecting all 4 at the same time, so he's remembering
My first step.
each one. Yeah.
Just my jumping off point. Okay, I'm ready when you guys are. So.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Let me do the timer on.
And take that.
And you are encouraged to take videos if you want.
Oh, yay.
Okay, I do have a timer that's going to come up. If you guys are familiar with Canvas, the student resources page, we have a Cube Club page there. See right here? Okay, on the Cube Club page, there's a link to this thing called QQ Timer. There's a Cube Timer right here.
Are you recording?
And I do really like this timer. This is what I've been using since I started, because it's a free timer, and the guy, I know the guy very well who coded this.
And you just hit spacebar and it starts, spacebar stops.
Yep, it's got every scramble, 3 by 3, all done. So, all right, someone want to say ready, set, go, and I'll get going.
Ready, set, go. Oh, baby. Yeah, but this is just because he's going to put cube. He's already done 3 cubes, 2 cubes.
That's 1 minute right now. 230. Good, nice. I think it was 228. So,
Yeah,
I got
Too bad.
229.
what a workout.
what is it, 229?
I got 229.9.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That was quite. That was impressive.
Okay, now we heard you can do it one-handed.
So we go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Two biceps.
Wait, all right, we'll videotape
You
you.
can time. I will want to time this. You can.
All right, one-handed. You ready?
Ready, set, go.
We'll put a blindfold around you.
Oh yeah, we should do that.
That is insane. 13.
Wow!
I can't even solve that in a
That is
minute.
insane.
I can't even solve that in a
13
month.
hours.
It took me like 2 days.
Right.
It took me like 2 minutes. Years, maybe. Yeah, I still have mine.
All right, so they want to know if you can do blindfold.
So I do. It is unfortunate that I have to tell you this. So there was a